All right, yesterday we talked about adding real numbers. So today we are going to be talking about subtracting real numbers. Um, so first off, we are going to talk about there is a specific rule that we can use while subtracting real numbers. So just by looking at some of these problems, so we have 4 minus 5, and we know it equals negative 1 as it's telling us. Now, I can go over and I can see, so this orange box is going to represent what the rule is. So as I go down, think about how the problems are changing, okay? So we have 4 minus 5, and that can become 4 plus negative 5. All right? Negative 2 minus negative 3 can become negative 2 plus 3. Negative 14 minus 5 can become negative 14 plus negative 5. All right, and last but not least, 12 minus negative 3 can become 12 plus 3. All right, and if you notice, all of the problems in the orange box are being changed from subtraction problems to addition problems. And this rule is called adding the opposite, or I like to call it um, leave change opposite. All right, leave change opposite. So what I mean by leave change opposite is I can actually take a problem like negative 5 minus 4, and I can turn it into an addition problem, which is a little bit easier than a subtraction problem, and leave my first sign, change my second sign, and do the opposite of 4, which is negative 4. So now my problem becomes negative 5 plus negative 4, which would be negative 9. All right, so this is a lot easier to understand than just doing negative 5 minus 4, which can get a little confusing. Okay. Also, we could, let's just do another problem. So I have 10 minus negative 13. Ooh, little funny looking 13. All right, so I can leave my sign alone here. I can change the sign, and I can do the opposite of negative 13, which is positive 13. So then my problem becomes 10 plus 13, which is 23. Okay? All right. So when we're talking about subtracting real numbers, there are a couple applications that we can use um, that are um, that we can use to display or represent how to subtract real numbers. So the first one is when you're dealing with absolute values. So when you're talking about absolute values, as you notice, all of these are subtraction problems on the inside. So you are actually doing the subtraction problem on the inside of the absolute value. So I'm going to leave change opposite. So 5 plus negative 11 is then going to equal the absolute value of negative 6. All right, and the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. All right, this one's really easy. We have 8 minus 7, which is 1. And so the absolute value of 1 is just 1. Okay, and last but not least, we have negative 10 minus negative 4. So if I leave change opposite, I now have negative 10 plus 4, which can be the absolute value of negative 6. And that is 6. Okay? All right, and then the last The last way that subtracting real numbers can apply to another type of problem is when you are working with an algebra problem. So we have evaluate negative a minus b if a equals negative 3 and b equals negative 5. So if I plug it in here, I have to do negative, just like in here, and then my a, which is actually negative 3, and then I subtract negative 5. Alright, now up here, this looks really funny. Now when you have a negative sign and a negative sign together, it's kind of like you're in this way, it's kind of like you're multiplying um, an invisible negative 1 times a negative 3. Um, so in that case, a negative 1 times a negative 3 would be a positive. So I oftentimes, when I see those two negatives, I just create a giant positive sign. Okay, so now my problem becomes 3 minus negative 5, and it looks a little bit less confusing, all right? So then negative 3 minus negative 5, we would leave, change, opposite. 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay, and that concludes today's lesson. Very short, all about subtracting real numbers.